Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. A weekly feature on 93.5 FM and live streaming at lakefm.com.
This is Bruce Venter. I am a trustee of the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance. I'm here today with Brian Mack, who is the treasurer of the Fort Plain Museum and Historical Park. Brian is also a board member on the Fort Plain Museum. We're going to talk about their annual conference on the American Revolution. Are you there, Brian?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Bruce, and thank you for having me. Thank you, John, and the Battlefield Park Alliance. I appreciate all your efforts and support.
How long have you been at this annual conference on the American Revolution, Brian?
Our conference is going on 11 years, and this will actually be our 10th conference. We missed one due to COVID, so we're hitting the old decade mark as far as the number of conferences. And
why did you start the conference?
We really wanted to bring awareness to the museum and our little part here in the Mohawk Valley. A lot of the histories tend to gloss over. The Mohawk Valley they usually hit Oriskany, they hit Saratoga, stuff in Albany, Schenectady, a little bit maybe in Johnstown, but a lot at Fort Plain and the battles of Stone Arabia and Clarksfield tend to mostly get a little mention, or, there's a couple of decent history books, local history books out there that have that information, but not much. So we really wanted to bring people from all over the country just to see what we have here, not only history, but with our museum and educate them on our great history.
I understand that you landed quite a big fish for this year's conference. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, we ended up, with the help of yourself, we landed Pulitzer Prize winning author Rick Atkinson. It was at your America's History LLC, American Revolutionary War Conference that we met. I met Rick, have traded several emails with him, got to be friendly with him, met him at Mount Vernon once, and ever since then he's always been trying to get up here, and we made it happen this year.
I understand he's got a new book out. Is that right?
Yep. It's titled The Fate of the Day, The War for America, Fort Ticonderoga to Charleston, 1777 to 1780. This is the second volume in his American Revolutionary War trilogy. The prior volume, The British Are Coming, was released about 4 or 5 years ago.
Why don't you tell me a little bit more about the other speakers on the program? And I have to give some full disclosure here to the audience. I'm also a board member on the Fort Plain Museum board, and in addition, I'm going to be a speaker at this year's conference. But I don't want that to detract from what a great program this is. So, Brian, tell us about some of the other speakers you've got lined up.
Well, I'll kind of add to that, because our conference, we kind of stick to a 250th theme. So, I asked you to speak because you do a great job with Ethan Allen and the taking of Fort Ticonderoga. It just happened about a week or two ago, 250 years ago. So that's why you're speaking, not to mention you're a good speaker. I'm not trying to get any brownie points.
That's okay. You can say anything you want, Brian. That's great.
All right. Well, then everybody should attend your conference in March and all your great bus tours.
Oh, is that the premier conference on the American Revolution that we run in March? Yeah. I hope everybody does. Yeah. We're going to have another podcast to talk about that. But let's stick with Fort Plain and tell us your schedule.
Yes, sir. We have Major General Jason Baum. He's actually just retired last year. He's going to be speaking about the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps and what it meant to the Revolution and their involvement. Another speaker we have is Alexander Kane. He's going to be speaking about the battles of Lexington and Concord. My son Grayson and I just had the privilege to attend the battle reenactment last month, and it was quite a treat. Alex was able to get us right up front, and we saw the action. And we definitely learned a lot that day, and it was just a neat experience. Other speakers we have, Abby Chandler has a nice book out on the North Carolina Regulators, which was like a 1770 event. It was like an uprising. So she'll be speaking on that. We were supposed to have her speak a couple of years ago, but we finally were able to schedule her in. Michael Gabriel is going to speak on Richard Montgomery and the other invasion of Canada. As you know, General Montgomery was killed at the end of 77. So Michael will be speaking about that. Not to mention, he published a book on Montgomery several years ago, maybe a decade ago, and he's actually going to have it republished by the end of the year. So we definitely look forward to that. We welcome back Shirley Green. She did a book on the Frank brothers, which were a couple of her ancestors that were in the Rhode Island Regiment, and they had quite an interesting story. And she's going to talk about integrating slave and free Rhode Island Revolutionary War, the Revolutionary War Black Regiment, talking about the integration of both the slave and free blacks. So that we welcome Don Haggis from the Journal of the American Revolution. He's going to talk about the British soldiers in 75 and, talking about like what was going on with them and the makeup of their regiments and so forth. Pat Hannum is going to speak on the Virginia campaign of 75 and 76, which includes Kemp's Landing and Great Bridge. We also have Jim Nelson coming back. We had him here several years ago to speak about Valcour Island, which, by the way, I believe you have a bus tour coming up on that in September, but you can talk more about that some other time. But Jim Nelson's actually going to speak on his book on Bunker Hill, which is also another 250th event. Of course, we will always welcome Eric Schnitzer, who's a great speaker and a great friend. He's going to talk about British uniforms and the Burgoyne's campaign and talk about some details and so forth on that. So that'll be some good material culture. And then one of our talks we actually named after a longtime historian who passed away a little over a year ago, James F. Morrison. So we named it our James F. Morrison Mohawk Valley resident historian. So William Tatum is actually in that role. He's going to be speaking about the Loyalist force and the threat in 75 down in like the New York area, like north of New York City, like down the lower Hudson Valley area. So that basically rounds out our speakers for the weekend. The conference will go from like a Friday mid-afternoon through Sunday noontime. Will end on Sunday, so it'll be quite a program with a lot of nice talks and great stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm familiar with most of those speakers. That's a terrific lineup you have, Brian. I think I would encourage our audience to really look into registering for the conference. How do they go about registering for this conference? And give us the dates again.
The conference itself, all the speaking portions will be May 30th through June 1st. So they'll start Friday about mid-afternoon. Will end around noontime on Sunday. Saturday's program will pretty much be all day from like 9 to 5. So the speakers will go in succession throughout those 3 days. The way people can sign up is go to our website, which is fortplainmuseum.org. If you go on the website, you'll see a tab for our conference. Just click on that, and then you can pay online. We have a link to pay online registration. There is a mail-in, but if you do mail-in, we ask you to please email us. Our email is info@fortplainmuseum.org, and we could get you signed up that way too.
And how much is the conference?
$160 for the 3 days, and if you become a member, then it's $140.
That's a great price.
Yeah, definitely. Because we're a not-for-profit, and we get a lot of help from SUNY Fulton Montgomery Community College, has been a nice partner with us in this. We're able to keep our costs down and provide a good program.
That's the venue for the conference, right? The college?
Yes, sir. Yep, the Fulton Montgomery Community College that's located in Johnstown, New York. It's in a nice area, easy to get to, not too far drive from the hotels. Or if you live in the capital region area, you could pretty much get there within an hour from Albany, Schenectady, Lake George, all the surrounding areas.
And if somebody doesn't want to commute, are there enough hotel rooms in the area?
Yes, there are several hotels. There's a Holiday Inn in Johnstown. There's a Microtel in Johnstown. Those two I'd highly recommend. If you go on our website, we actually have a section for lodging. There's actually some nice bed and breakfasts that are in the area that you can choose from. So there's definitely some options still available. And if you're having any trouble, please email us at info@fortplainmuseum.org, and we can definitely help you out.
I understand that there's so much interest in this conference that you have C-SPAN scheduled to be there on Saturday. Is that true?
Yes, sir. Yeah, last year, C-SPAN reached out to us through West Home Publishing. Bruce Franklin, who runs that outfit and does a great job, he was able to use his connections and get C-SPAN to come up for half a day. So last year they recorded our first 3 sessions. And then this year, somebody else they hired specifically to tape 250th anniversary programming reached out to me. So they're actually going to record the entire day on Saturday. So those 6 speakers speaking on Saturday will have their entire talks recorded, and C-SPAN does it up with their slide presentations, and they really do a nice job. And those speakers will be on TV.
Okay. Well, and lunch is included with that registration fee, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we include lunch with a sandwich, usually a salad, a bag of chips, refreshments. We do offer coffee breaks throughout the day. We do put out, like in the morning, we'll put out donuts or little pastries, which the caterer at the college, actually, they home make that stuff from scratch. The people that actually do that catering, they were bakers first, but then decided to take that up doing the food service at the college. So they actually, do more than just baked goods, but their baked goods are their specialty, and they're really good.
Well, I think you've really lined up a great cadre of speakers, and I hope that everyone that's listening to this podcast will look into the website at Fort Plain Museum and sign up to participate in this wonderful conference. So thanks a lot for being with us, Brian, today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the time. I appreciate it, and keep up the great work up there in Lake George. I enjoy all the stuff you folks are doing there at the Alliance. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Have a good day now.
And for this podcast and other podcasts that we produce here, go to our YouTube channel, Lake George Battlefield Moments.
Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. For more on this topic, check out the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance podcast, a weekly feature on Lake FM 93.5 FM and live streaming at lakefm.com. For more information, go to lakegeorgebattlefield.org and tune in for Lake George Battlefield Moments,